Football fans, Gooners, let's get the audio to level out itself. Don't hear any echoes or they're abating. Welcome to the finale, the final match preview in the 2021-22 season of the Positively Uncensored Arsenal podcast. And as usual, I'm with my friend Blackburn George. How you doing, George? We've made it through an entire season. Wow.
The sun's coming down on our season and it can't go dark quick enough for me.
Well, it will come inevitably, George. But we have some unfinished business. And today, on Sunday, it's Everton at home. Everton who don't have anything to play for. And we who theoretically have a lot to play for. Because, as they say, it's never over until it's over. And if Spurs should lose to Norwich on Sunday and we defeat Everton, we are in top 4. This is mathematically possible, George. It is time, whether the players like it or not, no matter how down they are, to show us what they've got. Do they have it in them, Blackburn George?
I don't know, but I noticed you being very politically correct there, Shotta. That was excellent. It's never over until it's over. We used to say it's never over until the fat lady sings.
That's right.
But you can't say that now because you can't be fattest. Can't call
fat shaming people.
And you can't call them ladies because they might identify as something other than ladies.
Oh, boys.
That's that double-pronged effect there. You've got you on your statement. So, yeah, it's not over till it's over, but it's nearly over. I can't see it myself. I can't even see us beating Everton, to be honest, let alone...
Come on, George. Come on, George. Everton has nothing to play for. Go ahead.
No, they don't have nothing to play for, which will be a great relief to them. They'll be free to express themselves and play away with no pressure. But they've been under tremendous pressure this last few months, and it's got to come as a relief to them. And we're under all sorts of pressure. I mean, if we lose this game, we'll have lost 6 of our last 9 games. Mm-hmm. It'll be a mess at the end of the season. And I can't see us beating them. We could, of course, but I certainly can't see Norwich beating Spurs. Even Spurs can't be that Spursy.
Yes, that is the one, George, which I find most unlikely. But I am going to share with you, just for the record, because I know I'm tending to bring some facts here because most podcasts just have opinions rather than facts. And it shows a form table. And, we are on a 2-game losing spell. And we have a history of going 3 games. 3 games win, 3 games losses. We have a pattern. And to be honest, Everton have had 3 wins, a loss and a draw. And I'm impressed by some of their recent results. Even the game against Brentford, they should have won. But the problem is, George, we say it already, they really have nothing to play for. They have hauled themselves up to 39 points. 3 clear of Burnley and mathematically cannot go down that trap door. And that is what concerns me. And I think you alluded to it. They could come to the game and play, put us under pressure, and it could be embarrassing. But that is something we have to avoid, don't you think?
Yeah, we can avoid it. That'll be up to them.
You're optimistic, my friend.
It could go 2 ways, really, couldn't it? They could either not be bothered and put no effort in, or play with freedom, and then we're in trouble. Mm-hmm. So we'll just have to. It depends on them. I mean, we're going to play the same, aren't we? We're going to try and win the game. But the way we've been playing recently, is that going to be enough to win a game of football? It doesn't look like it, does it?
George, and I thought about this, and after our last two podcasts of the two losses, well, in particular, giving some reflection on after the last podcast we did. And George, if you use a boxing analogy, Arsenal was hit hard. The punch that hit our Arsenal hard, was a defeat to Spurs, especially after that first questionable penalty. And I don't know if you agree with me. I don't know if the audience agree with me. But that took a lot of wind out of the players' sail. And I'm reflecting on the comments made by Xhaka. The players did not play as they should. Ramsdale kicking like he just started playing football, as if he was back at his old club. Um, as the young fellow on the winger there,
Smith Rowe.
Saka, not being in the up to the in the races. I don't know. They got to find something in their gut, George. And I know that they gotten punched. That punch from Spurs was very tough. Do they have it in them again?
Well, I would say no, but they've proved me wrong before. We went to Chelsea after 3 defeats and won. So it's possible. It's just, eventually you get knocked down once off too often, don't you?
Yes.
And you just can't get back up. And
that's a boxing analogy, George. Yes, go ahead.
And this is if we lose this, it'll be 3 times we've lost 3 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Setting all sorts of new records for the club in the Premier League. So no, it's a worry. Some of the players within the new culture don't seem to have the cojones for it, as Troy would have said.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But don't you think it's all irrelevant, really?
Well,
the game, the season's gone. It's the interest's gone. Fucking hell, it's been kicked out of us. In boxing terms, and it's been punched out of us.
That is my worry. That is my worry, George.
I think we've got problems. I think we've got problems going forward. I don't see where any decent class players are coming from.
Well, before we go there, George, before we go there, but there's a lot of anger. But the fans, there is a chance. This is what I'm getting at. There's a chance. There's a minute chance of getting in the top 4. Show some gumption. Show some pride. We're not asking you to be geniuses here, and plus you're going to be at home against the 16th place team in the league, who have barely scratched out 42 goals and let in 61 goals. Come on, George. Surely there's something left back in the tank.
Oh, we'll see, won't we? I mean, but all the things that you've just said were as relevant at Newcastle and more so, and we didn't do it there, did we? I mean, that was shocking. Mm-hmm. We deserve what we got there. It was just pathetic, and it such an important game if you're going to play. I mean, that was like Baku, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't good at all. I've lost just about the will to live, really.
Well, I think that we have to encourage the players. I'm sure
we'll do that, won't we? The crowd will be behind them, at least at the beginning of the game. You know, there isn't a toxic atmosphere at the great games. They've been, fairly good this year, the crowd, haven't they? So we'll be behind them. They'll have every opportunity. It'll be up to the players. And we'll see what will be. But the problem is that, we've got it wrong with. I mean, Odegaard was supposed to be Ozil-like, and he's not. He's been okay in games. He's been good in some games. Saka's fallen off a cliff. Martinelli sort of flatters to deceive. Eddie's the same. If you look across the back line, that's a bit of a nightmare at the moment.
Right. So, injuries.
Well, not just injuries, but the form.
Yes.
I don't know. It's just people keep telling me the future's bright because we've got this great young team. No, we've got a young team. Doesn't look that great to me, I'm afraid. We all want to think our young players are going to be top class. But I said a while ago, of the three we had, Saka, Emile Smith-Rowe, and...
By the way, George, do you mention him? He was horrible against Newcastle. He was anonymous, and I don't know. I think he's just quite simply out of form and confidence because he's not. Do you realize he has not been starting unless it's an absolute necessity? Ever since he got the COVID, I don't think that did a lot for his confidence.
No, he never got his place back, did he? Martinelli came in and. And he hasn't got his place back, which might have dented his confidence. But I said at the time, we'll be lucky if we get one. If one of these players comes through to be a top class player, we'll be lucky. They might have potential, but how often do you see a group of players coming through? And we all look at them and we want them to succeed and we want them to be world class, but chances are very slim that they will be. Even Saka now, this is 2 seasons in a row where he's tailed off horribly in the last 6 months of the season.
Well, the last 3 months, say George. But George, you can't. That's a problem with depending on 17, 18, 19, 21-year-olds to carry you through an entire season. And it's not helped. And I'm not going to start up an anti-Arteta tirade. But it's not helped by an inexperienced manager who has made such inexplicable decisions. And I mean, you got to face the fact. You can't be running a team that where the strikers output is just declining year after year. Then you ship Aubameyang out. And to make matters worse, he goes to Barcelona and scores 4 times the goals in the league. And I'm not even counting the Champions League, George, or their knockout competition. While you could barely get 4 goals out of him over 4 months. It tells you something is... Well, obviously, we said this all the time. We do not create enough. We simply don't. And Arteta doesn't seem to have an idea of how to create goals. And poor old is taking it in the neck because all he's doing is chasing lost causes.
I tell you, that was on the cards. The way he treated Ozil, excluding Ozil from the team, told us an awful lot. You take your best creative player and don't play him and say it's for football reasons. Tells you that he has it tells you a lot, but it tells you that he couldn't cope with Ozil's, probably his personality. And he didn't see what we all saw, that we were creating nothing. And then to say that he didn't think Ozil could do that and he was dropped for footballing reasons. I mean, we should have known at that point that there was going to be a big problem going forward, but we didn't.
Well, look, it's not George, and not only that, George, is the manner in which several of our fans who are supposed to be knowledgeable just started spinning the narrative on behalf of the club and the idea that we don't need a number 10. Do you recall that, George?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden,
there's no 10's a dead position in modern football.
go look at those massive massive accounts who started repeating the same crap. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, it's funny because our mate Phil Kennedy, he tweeted something which I thought was funny. He said he's not upset really with Arteta. He's upset with the blitzkrieg PR that's been at the club since he arrived.
Yes.
And that's it. That sums it up. A blitzkrieg PR. And I mean, you see it again today. He's on spouting about how whether we get fourth or sixth, the team has overachieved. And people are buying it. You know, well, after we'd lost the first 3 games, would you not have settled for sixth, fifth? Well, yeah, we would, because it looked like we were going to get fucking relegated. But surely that's not the way you judge a team. You know, take it to be having no points after 3 games and playing awful, and then celebrate when you're not quite as bad for the rest of the season. It's all PR, and people are buying it. And until they stop buying it, the club will get away with it. And I say the club, not Mikel Arteta. I think the club's protecting him. They're protecting them, and we've been through it all. Why they do it? They want to insulate him from criticism because it buys them time. A young team buys them 2 or 3 years. You know, they can keep telling us that there's jam to come, jam tomorrow, and it's the club protecting Mikel Arteta and their investment. You can't blame Mikel Arteta. You know, he's gonna make himself look as positive as possible. Yeah. Whatever he does, he's gonna want it to be looked on as an achievement. Why would he not? You know, he's not going to come on and say, "Hey, I did fuck up with Ozil, didn't I? Didn't I, lads? Oh, what a cock up that was!" And then I made it worse. I fucked Aubameyang off as well. What's that? And Saliba. Let's not mention him. I fucked up big time with him. Oh, Guendouzi. I will not mention Guendouzi either. But in general, I've done well. I've done good, really. Given that I've fucked off Saliba, Ozil, Aubameyang, Guendouzi, given that I've made those mistakes, haven't I done well? And everybody goes, "Yeah, you've done well." Hey.
Well, you know, it's interesting you make that point too, George, because those are the big decisions. It's not just the little decisions. Guys, those are the big decisions. Arteta and the ownership and the management have fucked up.
Seriously.
Yes, and they've been costly. By the way, George, costly. We subsidize Ozil wages. We subsidize Aubameyang wages. I think Doozy, we probably subsidized Doozy, you know, when we loaned him to Marseille. And he's taking them to Champions League, by the way. You know what I mean? Those are the big decisions you fucked up. That costly, not just using a profanity. Go ahead.
What we'll get about 8 million for Guendouzi. They could sell him tomorrow for 30 if they put him on the open market.
Well, on transfer market, they say he's worth 22 million euros, and transfer market is very conservative.
Very conservative. Yeah. Very conservative. Is there anybody, seriously, going to tell me that Lukongo is better than Guendouzi?
Oh, God, George, come on. I mean, you and I didn't. You know, we had our criticisms up. Let's be honest. There are going to be people who are going to pull our videos, right? We had our doubts about Doozy, but we didn't. But we
no. The thing is,
go ahead, George.
I want to clear this up. I never had doubts about Guendouzi.
Yeah.
I thought he had massive potential, but he wasn't ready, and he wasn't world class, and he wasn't setting the fucking place alight, like everybody said he was. And we've seen it again, exactly the same thing. He was good with potential, just like Smith Rowe, Saka, Odegaard are young, good with potential. My problem was people were saying he was already world class. He was already our best midfielder. He was better than Xhaka.
Yes.
You know, and I said, no, he's fucking not. He makes mistakes. He does things wrong. He's a kid learning. He's got potential. He's nothing more. We've seen him realize that potential moving away. He should have realized that potential at Arsenal, right? He wasn't the finished article. He wasn't great, but he had more potential than most of these players that we now look at and put on pedestal number one. It's madness.
Right. And this is what we expect from the management. You and I can chat any amount of crap and express an opinion, and everybody has an opinion, like an asshole. You know what I mean?
You see, I try and be open-minded, right? And I watched Mesut Ozil saying that Guendouzi was the best young talent at the club, right? And I remember years ago, Andre Arshavin said Jack Wilshere was the best talent at the club. And when they said it, I didn't agree with either of them at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But class recognizes class.
That's right.
Mesut Ozil doesn't think somebody is the best young player at the club because he hasn't noticed the other ones. He'll have noticed everything about them playing football. And that was all he'd be commenting on, his football talent.
Right.
Not whether they fucking liked him in the dressing room, not whether he fucking wound somebody up saying how much his wages were, not apologising to Mikel Arteta. He wouldn't have taken that into account. All he would have taken into account was his ability to play football. And just like Andre Arshavin would have looked at Jack Wilshere, discounted his injury problems, discounted him having a fag at parties, discounted him going up in front of the press and singing Tottenham is shit. He wouldn't have considered that. All he would have considered was how good Jack Wilshere was when he practiced and played with him on the field. And Ozil would have done the same with Guendouzi. So if Mikel Arteta tells you, if Mesut Ozil tells you he's the best young talent at the club, you can more or less be sure that he is the best young talent at the club.
You know, George, I agree with you, and I will say that we came to appreciate Guendouzi's potential after he left, because we would recall games when he came from the bench and changed it. Yeah, he got in a fight and a scrap, and that's the kind of thing that we expect Arteta to recognize, not be worrying, not be overemphasizing attitude, which is another thing. You have to be emphasizing talent, and I tweeted that as well. You why are you obsessed with attitude? Most of footballers have crappy personal attitudes. Come on, and we see that once in the post-football life, some of the personality come in. You and I have played and socialized with guys who are very talented, but their attitude is shit. We wouldn't carry them on our daughters. Go ahead, George.
Look at some of the past. Look at Van Persie.
Oh, yeah.
He was
arrogance.
He was horrible. Adebayor. He was fucking awful. What a fucking piece of shit he was. But did Arsene Wenger send him out on loan to fucking Brentford or Stoke or somewhere? No. He got the talent out of him.
And banged in 30 goals, George. And we were complaining about his attitude.
And he was never the same once he left.
Right.
By the way, because he probably didn't get a manager who could cope with him the way that Arsene could.
Because he thought he was a God's gift to football. He was arrogant as shit.
Because for 12 months he was.
Yes. But you see my point.
But all of them. Look beyond that. Look at Thierry Henry.
Oh,
what an egotistical twat he was. Should we send him out because he wouldn't behave? He didn't have the right body language.
Right.
Bergkamp used to fucking sulk if somebody fucking fouled him. He could go for the rest of the game sulking because he feels he had been cheated because somebody fouled him when he wanted to do something special. Did he fire Dennis Bergkamp off? No. Dennis Bergkamp wouldn't go abroad, wouldn't fly. Did Arsene Wenger sell him because he wouldn't do as he's told? No. It's going to fuck up the management of the players. Your best players are always going to be fucking temperamental. You look at across the fucking league. Your best players.
They're prima donnas, George. They're prima donnas. They're arrogant and egotistic.
They've needed that to get to where they are.
And yet, our manager...
Great players have an attitude. They think they're better than everybody else. They do. In every fucking game, every single sport. The ones with their attitude. It's what makes the difference between a good player and a great player. Their own belief in themselves. You know, people say, oh, it's down to hard work. They do extra work. They're more dedicated and all the rest of it. To me, that's bollocks. There's people completely talentless, who could be as dedicated as you can get, who could put all the fucking hours in. It won't make any difference if you've not got the fucking talent. But if you have the talent and you put the hours in, then the thing that makes the difference is your belief in yourself.
George, you remind me of a famous episode where you had people say, you need to have the players showing they are prepared for the game, and they should put all the effort into the pregame. So they had Mesut Ozil supposed to run through cones on the fucking game, and he said fuck that, and he did the little imitation shit, and then went and bossed the goddamn game while the rest of the guys spent about half an hour working out, killing themselves off. Mesut Ozil deliberately said, I'm not doing that shit. You remember that? The other thing it reminded me of, George, this was what happened yesterday. If Patrick Vieira was playing for Mikel Arteta, he would have been sent to Marseille like Guendouzi. The same Patrick Vieira that doesn't take shit from a fan who came and tell him shit when coming off the field. He kicked his ass down. That's the kind of personality you have to deal with at Arsenal and who Wenger had to deal with. Don't you see that's the point we're getting at?
Of course it is. It was full of strong players that played their way. Mm-hmm. And Arsene just fitted them into the team. And I've always said that about Messi. Why would you have a player like Ozil, who was regarded as one, if not the best playmaker in the world? Mm-hmm. Why would you tell him to play a different way, a way that didn't make him one of the best playmakers in the world?
He must play. He wanted to play that positional football, and that's very strict zones. And
exactly, of course. And Mesut Ozil's strength was seeing the space and floating into it.
Right.
So now you'd want to stop him doing what made him the best playmaker in the world. And here Wolf said, "Wow, what? And what's going on? What? Right. So he dropped him deeper,
right?
Didn't he?
Right.
And he performed all right. He was probably our best player still, but it was such a fuck up. And the whole thing's been a fuck up. You can't. It's a problem now because the managers now want to be the star of the show.
Oh, that's the other
rather
thing.
Than the players. They want to be. You've seen it. Klopp, Pep, Arteta wants it. They like to be the fucking star turn. They get the credit for every win and they blame the players for every loss. Our club want that to be the same with Arteta. They will give him credit for everything we achieve, and they will blame the players for everything that we don't achieve, every mistake, because they want it to be seen that we have one of these super managers who it's all about. He's up there with Klopp and Pep, and he's fucking not.
And they're making grave errors. And George, we're going to talk about this when we do a season review. Eventually with the group, but they're going to keep him. There's no doubt about it. But this is going to be. I am concerned about the direction they're going to go. The thing that I'm seeing is there's a lot of anger about how we collapsed. And don't tell me shit. 4 games ago, we were 4 points ahead of Spurs. We were showing, not a showing, but we had a bit. We had a bit in our between our jaws. I'm trying to get the analogy right. You know what I mean, George? We were the ones that were in front of the jockey trying to hold us back. You know what I mean? And we fucked it up. And we were, fourth looked like it was in the bag. Come on, guys. No, we're not going back 6, July, August. But the thing I want to say, George, we'll come to that review. There's a lot of anger. But the next stage is going to be denial. That's you begin to see. Oh, we could have. The European League is really what we should have aimed for. That's what you're going to see, a lot of denial, and the club is going to take advantage of it. You're not going to get, this. I'm preparing. I don't know what your thoughts is, but audience, now we see with those. We try to identify the spin and the bullshit that's coming up. You're going to see the club denying that top 4 was ever in their thinking, and they're going to sell the European League as the best thing that ever happened to the club. Your thoughts on that, George?
Absolutely. That's what they're going to do. And I tell you what it is. If we hadn't got in the top 6, they'd still have sold you that pup. Mm-hmm. They'd still have told you, we didn't expect to get top 6. It's a project. Look at our young team. It's a building project. With the process. So what? We finished 7th. It's better than 8th, isn't it?
Yes. It's coming, guys.
They're taking us for mugs, which is fine. I don't blame them for taking us mugs because the fan base allow it. If you're going to allow someone to take you for a mug, then they should take you for a mug. And they've taken us for mugs. And you see them all. You see it on Twitter all the time. And in blogs and that, still saying that he's overachieved and he's done well. Fucking hell. What can you say to these people?
George, you spent 250 million of the Queen's best pounds.
And not counting what he's wasted, what he's lost.
Come on. Give us and Wenger 250
but it's not, but then again, it's not just him.
No, it's not.
It's not just Mikel Arteta.
Of course not. Josh Kroenke has signed off on all of this.
Yes, and Vinay
and Edu.
They all have to have some responsibility for it. But then again, you can say there's limitations as well. I mean, if I was in charge, I like to say, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd go to Manchester City and I'd buy Jesus, I'd buy Gundogan, or I'd buy Sterling, and I'd go to West Ham and I'd buy Declan Rice. And what a team that would be then. Yeah, they would. They're coming. We can't fucking get them. You're talking bullshit.
But George, is not only that. Let us remind people Manchester United has done that. I'm gonna bring back Ronaldo. I'm gonna get Bruno. I'm gonna do this. Look where it is at. It's a mess. It's a total mess. That's not how your team build. Every manager has a different idea how they want to play, and they bring a certain kind of player that will suit the way they want to play. What is the plan here? Anyway, we'll talk about that, George. I can just assure the fans we are not going to fall for it. I mean, we are going to try to be as truthful and as honest as possible. We're not going to repeat the spin. We're going to try to reveal the spin. I hope you are up to it, George.
We're going to make people believe I'm right, not you.
Damn
Not the
egotist.
club. I know best. I know best.
You're just another egotist, George.
Yeah, and I'm going to go on. I'm going to go on Google on imright.com and I'm going to get all the facts and prove that I'm right about everything.
Which is exactly the opposite. That's with a bit of humbleness. That's we're just trying to doing our part to say, hey, this what you're decode it and try to get our fans to understand.
You don't have to be a genius to know that we've not played. It all comes down to how good we play football. You can look at Arteta, you can look at the board, you can look at the players. At the end of the day, it's quite simple. How good does our team play football?
How good do we perform? And that's the point you made all season.
We do not play very good football, and we do not perform at our optimum level very often. And that's your problem. That's your problem.
In a nutshell.
Well, and people will look at 5 or 10 minute spells. Oh, we were good there. So what? Every team, every dog has its day.
Well, George, let's hope they can get it together on Sunday. It's 11 o'clock my time. It's 3 o'clock your time. Because there is a chance, and just for pride's sake, let's hope the team can pull it together. I'm hoping and willing them to do that.
Yeah, let's get a good result. Last game of the season, and give all Arteta's fans a happy summer. They can say, look, we beat Everton 5-0. We're on the charge.
Yeah, well, and sure, that will forgive all his sins. Well, if you wish. All right, George, let's see Sunday and after. Bye, guys. See you later.
Everybody.
Bye.